doing great things. Dap my partner up, I'm glad he on the same thing. Bills is going up, but I know how to maintain. Had to cut him off, but I ain't got to say name. Hey, plans of being the boss and I ain't gang bang. Some of my brothers did, but we be on the same thing. Solid since the kid, respect is just the main thing. If I said it, I'm gon' do it. Look, I ain't changed. Hey, I'm from the west side.
Hey, I'm back. This is the I Am Courtney Chandler podcast, and I am back, and I'm so happy that you are joined, watching, and listening to us here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on your watching on YouTube. Of course, I am Courtney Chandler, and listen, it's been a minute, and I'm so happy to be back on your radio, on your iPhone, on your smartphone, on your computer, wherever you watching and listening. I appreciate you wherever time you're listening. I appreciate you so much. And thank you all so much again for taking out the time to choose this podcast to listen to and watch. Of course, like always, make sure you follow and subscribe. I Am Courtney Chandler podcast on Instagram and also on Facebook. And make sure you follow and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and subscribe and like on YouTube. Listen, I'm so happy to be back. We're not going to hold any time. I'm going to get into right what I need to say, but you know how we do everything. You know how we do this podcast. We shine a light on somebody that's doing great things in the community or in our world today. And this time, I'm going to shine a light on somebody I think many of us know. So without further ado, this is Shine on Light.
Lights, camera, prime time. And I'm not talking about your favorite TV show. I'm referring to Coach Deion Primetime Sanders, Super Bowl champion and head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. As head coach of the Buffaloes, Sanders has already doubled the team's wins. Last season, they finished 1-11. Currently, they're 3-0. Aside from winning games, Sanders has brought excitement and exposure to Boulder, Colorado. The last two home games has been the venue for two primetime college football shows and brought in a list of celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Lil Wayne, and Master P. But should we be surprised of the success of Coach Prime? Because he told everyone, including his doubters, that these things would happen.
Guys, after we get finished with this work, I just want you to know we're on the way. Not to compete, but to win. Not to show up, but to show out. Not to be among the rest, but to be the absolute best. We're coming to work. We're not coming to play. We're coming to kill, not to kick it. Baby, I got to believe that we're coming. You got to feel that the energy inside of you that we're coming, don't you? You got to feel it that we're going to be there. You got to feel it when you get in that stadium. You better get in there early because time kickoff consumes. Baby, we're coming. Do you understand it? Do you feel that? Do you understand the intensity, the excitement, the adrenaline, the rush that I got right now that I can't wait till this thing kicks off because we are coming?
Coach Prime, you are here. And this week, the I Am Courtney Chandler podcast shines a light on you.
Hey, shout out to Coach Prime. Hey, best of luck to you, Coach Prime, this weekend as you head to Oregon to play on the Oregon Ducks. Best of luck to you and your team. To shine light on you. But hey, let's get into this episode. Of course, it's been a minute, and I'm gonna get into that in my discussion on today or tonight, whenever you're taking the chance to listen to. But would it been a minute if I had to have made some adjustments in my life since the last time we talked? And I hope y'all hear me on this mic. This mic here has been kind of giving me issues. I hope you all can hear me clearly on this mic that I have here. If not, the next week I'm gonna have a different mic. But anyway, during this process, this long process that we've been away, it's allowed me to reflect. It's allowed me to look at things a little bit differently in my life, in the life of this podcast, and it's made me take a different way of approaching things. So I want to talk about that on this episode. This episode is called "I Am Taking a Different Route." Let's say it in the car or wherever you're watching and listening. I am taking a different route. So let's get into it. So first, I want to just talk about kind of what's been going on with me since the last time we talked. I think it was back in January. Of course, I'm back here working at CBS 42. It's been almost 2 years now. Can you believe I've been here a year and a half working with CBS 42. In January, that was the last episode we did. In February, a lot of things changed for me. At that time, they had removed me off the morning show, which I had been on since I had started working there back last May, to now they put me on the day side. And on top of that, they switched my days. So I now work Wednesday through Sunday instead of Monday through Friday. Big difference, considering that, I look forward to being off on the weekends, spending time, with family, friends, my girlfriend, and to not be able to, spend that time and that time be stripped away. It's a lot different. I'm not going to even lie to you. It was very, very different. I had to get adjusted to working on Saturday and Sunday, something that I've done before, but not in this size market. It's a little bit different working on Saturdays and Sundays in this market. At first, I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't really like it because I might have been off on weekends. It's something about being off on weekends instead of you going to work Monday through Friday and then having the weekends off. But I'll tell you this. It was, in some ways, it was very helpful for me. With that being said, having those days, I had, Mondays and Tuesdays off. I had the chance to really focus on a lot of things like this podcast, had a lot of more time to plan, because when I was working on morning show, I didn't have a lot of time to plan this podcast like how I wanted to. I didn't have a lot of time to plan things, as far as my Auburn show, CNT Talking Tigers. Make sure you also listen to that on YouTube. So yeah, make sure you go check that out as well. And then also, I'm the state media director for my church, Alabama First Jurisdiction of the Church of God in Christ. And it gave me the opportunity to really focus on some things. And this year we celebrated 100 years. So it really gave me the opportunity to step aside and focus on a lot of different things. Yeah, it was a sacrifice that I'm still part of me is still, not 100%, about it, because I don't like, one thing that I don't like about it is, normally on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, that's the time I get to spend with my girlfriend and also my family. Well, I don't have the time to do that anymore, like how I want to, or I have to make adjustments. This is saying like that. I have to, make adjustments, and for the most part, it's worked out. It's worked out pretty good. I think the biggest adjustment was spending time with my girlfriend, because we spend time together on the weekend, but we made it work where sometimes when I got off early on Saturday, I still had time to spend with her, and then also do things and go to the movies or go out to eat or go to different events and stuff. So we have made it work. Of course, I'm still not too thrilled about it. I'm not gonna lie to you all, but I've made it work. And that's why I want to talk about this, because sometimes we have to go in different routes in order to get to where we're going. I never thought that this route would help me in a lot of those areas, but just thinking about it, it's helped me in a lot of areas in going this route instead of staying in the route that I was going. Because mornings, yeah, they were, you get off early, but it's difficult. And then you don't have a lot of time once you get off, because you're still trying to get your body adjusted, and then you have to go to bed at a certain time. So it's very hard. You can't talk on the phone like how you want to with people, with your friends and family, and then you have a significant other. It's hard. So, working this shift, yeah, I don't like the days and the hours. I'm just throwing it out there, y'all. It's CBS Sports. You hear me? Monday through Friday. I think that works a lot better for me. But for now, I've adjusted and I've learned that this route, you just have to make adjustments. And sometimes adjustments are necessary. And I thought about it when I was thinking about it. I thought about like how my career started in news. I think I've shared this with many of you all, and you probably heard me talk about it on this podcast. I started in production. I didn't start off as a reporter. I didn't start off as an anchor. I started off in production. I started off working what we called a shot box during some of our shows, our noon show, and then some of our other shows on the weekend. That's where I started, and I also helped out with editing as well. So it was part time. So imagine being fresh out of college, have a 4-year degree, and my first job is a part-time job, not a full-time job, but my first job in the business is part-time. Have a full 4-year degree, and I have a part-time job. Now, with that being said, I had friends who also were in with me, who studied with me, who were in the broadcast journalism program with me, who's in Trojan Vision with me as well. That some of them, they were able to get jobs straight out of college, like on air jobs, jobs that were on air, and they were immediately thrown out in the field using what they learned at Troy to now their professional career. And I'm not gonna lie to you, at first I was upset. I was questioning God, like, God, why you do me like this? Out of all the people, I've been faithful. I went to the class. I went to class. I did the work. I did the stories. I prayed. I went to church. I paid my tithes. God, why am I having to take a backseat while all these people, not saying I don't know what they're doing, but I know some of the people who were in that program with me didn't work sometimes as hard as me, and they were getting the push and they were getting the opportunity. And when I look back at it, I was so grateful for the experience that I had, because it humbled me. It humbled me and told me, like, you still have things to learn. Being in that position, working in production, I learned so much. Just being around a newsroom, knowing how it operates, knowing what to pitch in news meetings, knowing how to prepare a story, knowing how to make the phone calls, watching certain reporters and anchors. That prepared me, so when the opportunity came, there was no trying to explain or no trying to teach me. I already knew what I was doing. I was already ready and prepared to go out there and hit the ground running. So, and not saying that I had peers that didn't know how to do those things, but being in the position, being in the seat I was in, working in production, I had a front row view. It was almost like a second internship that I had that was paid. Because on my off days, I would come up there and do stories, or I would shadow a reporter. So it was another opportunity for me to gain experience, make my reel better, and get to where I wanted to go. Eventually, I ended up in Dothan, starting off my career, which I had prayed for, to be in Dothan, and God put me where I prayed for, instead of somewhere I didn't really want to go. I was in arm's reach of a lot of different things. I wasn't that far from home. I wasn't that far from Troy. So I went to go to Troy. I could easily ride back up to Troy. So it was a blessing to be able to sit back and watch. And sometimes, we don't understand that at first, but in the long run, when we really sit back and look maybe years down the road, like me, we figured out that God puts us in positions in order to help us, in order to help us grow, in order to be in the position that He wants us to be in, and not the position that we want to be in. And now looking at it, I'm looking at my peers who I work with, and I started in the business with. I'm one of the best ones that, from our group that is still in the business. I just thought about it just a few days ago. I'm like, wow, I'm one of the last guys, one of the last men standing in this. People got other jobs, people got burnt out, and people, just, because news is hard. I mean, it just is. I mean, what you see on TV is the finished product, but the 9 to 5, the grind is hard, and it's not everybody's not built for it, because it's a lot that goes on in a newsroom. It's a lot that goes on in the elements, and that and for the people who are not built for it, that's totally cool. I'm not casting doubt. I'm not throwing shade on anybody, because it's not meant to be for everybody. Sometimes I question, like, Lord, why me? But I know He has me here for a certain time period and a certain reason. But the route that He put me on, starting production, it was so valuable. And I think a lot of times we, look at other people's, routes and wanting to go down their path. We're so focused on, seeing how other people, gain success. It's just looking at the situation I just told you all about, as far as like when I started off. People, like I said, people started off in large markets or medium-sized markets and struggled. A lot of times we want what people have because what we see on social media, but we don't know what's behind the lens of social media. We don't know if they're struggling. We don't know if they're about to throw in the towel. We don't know how they got there. We don't know if they cheated or if they manipulated their way into certain positions. So you can't worry about, or you can't be so focused on somebody else's route to success when God has a plan for you. He has a specific plan for your success. Not, and it's not Courtney's, it's not your best friend, it's not your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom, your dad. It's specifically for you. He has the specific route. So you gotta trust that whatever the route He has, it's going to be the best route. So stop worrying about everybody else's route and trying to be successful, because everybody don't have the same route. If everybody had the same route, it would be so boring. You get out of college, you get a job that makes $50,000 a year. You work that job 25 years, then you retire. Then you sit on the lazy boy. You don't do nothing in retirement. You know how boring that sounds? When everybody sometimes have different routes, you might start off. I want to make a perfect example. Steve Harvey, who's somebody I look up to. Steve Harvey didn't finish college. He flunked out of school. Had numerous jobs, and he said he got fired from most of the jobs he had. He was doing comedy. He was writing for someone doing comedy, and he went to a comedy show just because his friend invited him. And while the comics were, up performing, he knew he was he signed up for Amateur Night the next week. And while the comics that he was watching on the stage, he knew the punchline before they could even get it out. He was like, if I was them, I would have did it this way. So, like, if I was them, I would have did it this way. Lo and behold, the last person didn't show up, so they went to the next list, and his name was first. Do you not know he won that comedy night? And that night changed his life forever. He only won $50. I think he only won like $50 to $100. He cried all the way home, and he said, "I finally found what I was called to do." Quit his job the next day. Yeah, he struggled. He said he didn't even make $50,000 the first 2 years he was in comedy. He was homeless. He lost everything he had trying to make the dream happen. Then he finally got his big break in Apollo doing the joke about Mike Tyson in the eye. And that was his big break. And now he's on TV every day. Every day of the week. You watch Steve Harvey on Family Feud. We listen to him on the radio. We see him on something on Facebook. YouTube. He's everywhere. And it's all because he didn't take the same route as everybody else went. He didn't take the same route as Cedric the Entertainer. He didn't take the same route as a Martin Lawrence. He didn't take the same route as a Richard Pryor. He had to take his own route. God had a specific route he wanted for him, and he took the route, and look where he's at now. And that's what it's all about. You have to be concerned about your route. Don't worry about who else route and how they're getting there. And I know it's hard sometimes because we live in a society that is microwave. We want everything now. We want everything quick, fast, in a hurry. But if you just have a little bit of patience and just wait, sometimes waiting is the best thing, because I'm going to say this again. You don't know how people got to where they are. Sometimes it's a blessing to see the story of how they got to where they are. And sometimes it might not be a blessing. Sometimes people manipulate their way to the success. And I'm gonna be 100% real with you. Some people who you see on social media are not who they say they are. And we have to be real about that. But be real about this. You got to take your own route. You got to go your own way. And sometimes the route may be different from everybody else. So take the different route. Be bold. Take the different route. And I promise you, whatever that route is, whatever route God has you on, that's going to be the best route to get to where you want to be in life. So, hey, I'm wrapping this episode up, and it's encourage you, take your route. Don't be afraid to follow and trust God on the route that he's taking you, and he's going to take you in the best route. And sometimes going in a different direction than everybody else is the greatest thing you can ever do. So I just want to encourage you. Well, it's not sometime, but it is the greatest thing you can ever do. So I just want to encourage you to continue to trust God in whatever route you're going, and don't be afraid to take that different route. Now, hey, listen, we are going to wrap up, but we got a new thing. Instead of this episode is brought to you by, we got now called the Word of the Week. So at this time, we're going to give you the Word of the Week. Many of y'all might not know, but it's always my goal to at least try to work out at least twice a week. And many of y'all might not know, but it's always my goal to at least try to work out at least twice a week. And I noticed that when I work out twice a week, that I gain strength. But when I slack off and miss 2 weeks or a month, I lose strength. Well, consistency is important if you're trying to gain weight in the gym or working out, build a relationship, or build a business. Consistency has to be the key in order to get where you're going. So my advice to you is to first make a plan, execute the plan, and stay consistent with the plan at whatever goal you're trying to reach. I'm Courtney Chandler, and this week's word of the week is consistency. There you have it, everybody. Consistency is the word of the week. I want to make mention of one other thing I've got to say. Stay in your lane. When I say it, I'm laughing at it because I think about a man by the name of Lamar Ball. He told this lady, this sports broadcaster, to stay in their lane. It was actually not the right thing to say, but when you're on your route, stay in your lane. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. And there was one more thing that I wanted to make mention of, and I think God told me to say it. Oh, your route tells your own story. Everybody has a story. So be confident that your route has its own unique story, and be confident in taking the different route. Listen, y'all, I want to thank y'all so much again for taking out the time to listen to the I Am Courtney Chandler podcast. Again, I hope this mic works. If it doesn't, I will make adjustments on next week. Again, join us next week. We got a very, very, very special guest. I'm going to share a little bit more on Instagram very soon. But join us next week. We're going to have a very special guest with us. Until then, y'all be blessed, be safe. And of course, you know what the theme is for this show. Discover yourself, embrace it, and unlock the potential within. Until then, God bless you. And I'll see you next week on the I Am Courtney Chandler podcast. Be blessed.
doing great things. Dap my partner up, I'm glad he on the same thing. Bills is going up, but I know how to maintain. Had to cut him off, but I ain't gotta say names. Hey, plans of being the boss and I ain't gang bang. Some of my brothers did, but we be on the same thing. Solid since the kid, respect is just the main thing. If I said it, I'm gon' do it. I ain't changed. Hey, I'm from the west side.